Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me tonight. I wanted to talk about a crisis communication plan for Toyota Motor Company. Back in 2009 through 2010, Toyota was hit with a major crisis that involved their pedals sticking to what they assumed were the new floor mats in different vehicles like Lexus and Siennas, and there was an incident in August of 2009 where a driver, uh, his pedal was stuck and it accelerated out of control, and he hit another car, rolled off the embankment, and unfortunately, him and his three passengers did not survive the accident. With that, Toyota had to recall 2.3 million vehicles because there are so many more other incidents of people complaining about the accelerator sticking and it just accelerating them out of control, and that they felt like they had no brakes, and it's a pretty dangerous situation. Unfortunately, Toyota didn't handle it very well. When the crisis first came to them, they had responded very slowly to it. It took them 2 months to even release an apology for the family of the people who were killed um, during that first initial incident with the pedal sticking. And then after that, there was no sense of urgency. They assumed it was the floor mats, and so they just asked dealerships, they can remove the floor mats. Some people did, some people didn't. Some people, I don't know if they it might have got lost in translation of what they were supposed to do, but it's like they didn't go back to even look at the vehicles, that it could have been something more remote and more mechanical than just it sticking to thick floor mats. So with this crisis management plan, a CMP, it's not a how-to guide. It's not to tell you what to do in a crisis situation, because crises are never the same. They're all going to be different. They're all going to have their own unique individuality, and you're just going to have to handle them differently. Some are going to be easy. You can just send out a quick social media tweet or Facebook or a post like that could easily fix it. A small apology sometimes can fix it, and sometimes it's going to be a lot grander, like it was with the acceleration incident and the recalls. So to begin, um, as I said, it's not a how-to guide, and with also with crisis management plan, is it's not a checklist. It's not to be like, okay, we did this and we did that and we're good, because there is no step by step for it. You're not going to check all the boxes every single time, because it is going to be different. And it also needs to be known, it's not a security blanket. Having a crisis management plan, and when a crisis strike, isn't going to make it like, okay, it's easy, it's over with, we got this, we can handle it. It's going to give you more confidence, it's going to give more organization to a crisis, but it is not going to tie it up in a neat little bow always. The reason to do a crisis management plan is to not waste time. Time is very precious during a crisis. It's very delicate. Things need to be done in a quick and timely manner, without being too rushed and without taking it too slow, like Toyota had did in their original crisis. Um, because you can waste so much time trying to figure out what was done, how to fix it, who needs to be doing what as part of your crisis management team, your CMT. Um, that's what, that's who this is for, so they know what to do. As soon as that crisis comes in, it's like, okay, this is where everyone's gonna go. Everyone's gonna have their specific job, and their specific location to be at, and they'll be ready for it. Just by having a plan, it could easily save lives. It could easily risk or take away the risks of causing more damage somewhere. The first thing that's usually in a crisis management plan is documentation. You have confidentiality statements, and then you're gonna have your team members are gonna acknowledge what their roles are gonna be. They need to know where they're gonna be at, um, what they're gonna be doing. Another key part of a crisis management plan is having an incident form, and that's not just to write down like, oh, this happened. Oh, there was an incident of a car accident where a passenger who had actually called 911 during the Toyota incident while in the car saying that there were no brakes. This is to write that down so when a crisis happens, you can look back and go, okay, this is when that August incident was the first thing that triggered it. That's when we were first known. Or it could have easily been there were other complaints before that. So Toyota needs to look back and go, okay, back in July of 2009, someone complained about the pedal sticking a little bit. Didn't reach to the heights of 100 miles per hour on a freeway or crashing the car, but it did stick. There was a bit of trouble. And instead of, just saying, oh, that's just one incident, to write that down and go, okay, this is where it started. And this is where we should have taken initiative of it. Um, you also need to know who to contact. You need to have contact information. Toyota we need to contact dealerships and owners, car owners. You know, cars they're everywhere, and most people own at least one, or a household owns at least one vehicle, and it seems silly to be afraid of something that you get into every day. And you do see accidents constantly, but it's usually someone wasn't paying attention, someone was on the phone, someone was speeding, someone tried to cut somebody off, and other things that contribute to that, when it shouldn't be that you're afraid to get into a car because the car itself is unsafe. And it should never come down to that. And having this information is great in case there's lawsuits, in case there's an investigation going into the company. In case the family of his name was Mark Saylor, of the man who rolled off the embankment and him and his 3 passengers died, is like, no, there's something that could have been done, and yet my husband, my son, my brother was killed because of it. They have the information going, well, this is what we did, and they're able to let them know what they were doing in terms of this crisis. Crisis strategy worksheets are also part of the plan, and that's because crisis management plans aren't about tactics. They're not about necessarily getting things done in this form and in this manner. Because once again, not every crisis is the same, but it's about getting the team to think strategically. It's all about critical thinking when it comes to crisis management. You have to think on your feet. You have to think quickly and with urgency, and that's what the crisis strategy worksheet is for. Is it's going to allow you to look at the incidents and write down what's going to help and what's the best way to handle this. Going back to the who needs to be contacted, it also blends into our the stakeholders contact worksheets, because stakeholders do need to be contacted, especially in times of a crisis, in a crisis of this magnitude. The dealerships need to be contacted, which but they were just to check floor mats. And it is a lot of work to go into going through every single model and make of a Toyota, but had it been done, it could have spared more incidents and more lives. And then the stakeholders need to be contacted, the owners of the vehicles. And it's not so easy to go and call every single Toyota owner. It's not going to be there's a million of them. That's where social media comes in. Social media is such a great outlet during a crisis. Sometimes it can be a bit of an Achilles heel depending on the way a statement is written or how quickly it was, and sometimes companies tend to just write it as if you're writing to your best friend about what you had for lunch. That's not how to handle it. It needs to be written in a way um, to inform the stakeholders that there is a problem. There is a problem that is being acknowledged and that is being worked toward a solution, but they don't need to be in the dark about it. So like I said, social media, which is your social media manager, needs to be on it and ready to send out that tweet and that Facebook post. So uh, news media is a great outlet. It gets to thousands and millions of people quickly with that sense of urgency, um, because there's news on so many different stations and so many different people um, watch. With the social media manager, um, also contacting through the social media, the web page needs to be updated. Toyota needs to put on there, that there is this crisis, there is this situation that is involving their vehicles. It allows customers to pay close attention to theirs. It's not always every single vehicle that's gonna have that problem, but that way, if they're like, oh no, it was acting kind of finicky, it was kind of not working right, they're able to go in and go, hey, my car has a problem. And Toyota just, announced that they were having problems with their pedal sticking, and that's exactly what mine is doing. And to be conscious, which is a great thing to be during a crisis. With all this, the ending comes with having that you want to get pre-gathered information from safety inspections, which is a great thing to have, because without that, investigators and lawyers, if it leads to that, are going to be like, well, where was when was this inspected? When did you ever see a problem? How is it made it to the streets before something became clear, before something happened? That's also, to go back to any last recalls that Toyota had. They need to know, well, back in 1982, this happened and this is why. And that's going to show a timeline, which is going to be very helpful. And then also manufacturing procedures. If an investigator wants to figure out why the floor mats are too thick, then they need to go back to the manufacturer and go, well, this is how it was made, this is how it was put into the vehicle, and this is how it's presented. And so having all this information with a crisis management plan, once again, it's not a instant solution, because that's not what it's for. It's not to be like, as soon as that bell rings of we have a crisis, to put on your capes and go, let's go fix it, let's go clean it up. It's there to give you the knowledge, to give you the almost confidence to get through a crisis, or how to deal with it. Not how to fix it, but how to figure out the little things of who needs to be where, what they need to be doing, um, and how to work out critical thinking and strategically of what the next step is going to be for this specific type of crisis. Um, Toyota needed to be aware of, as soon as that incident happened, they should have had someone release a statement. They should have had somebody, check into it. When there's a 911 call from inside the vehicle saying that their brakes are not working, that's not something that you can blame on the driver was driving recklessly, the weather was in control. That's something that has to do with the vehicle. And it may have been one incident, but that's one incident that should have been looked at. And with a crisis management plan, Toyota is able to deal with that without having to reach to the point of 2.3 million recalls if it didn't need to be done. So thank you for listening, and have a great night.